old. Along with my younger sister Ella, I am the co-founder of an environmental and educational charity, Kids Against Plastic, as you can see on screen. So a huge thank you really to Martin for inviting me and arranging for me to speak to you all this evening about the Plastic Clever Schools initiative. We don't want plastic schools, we want plastic clever schools. But I'm really hoping that it's a scheme that can end up being mutually beneficial for our charity and for local Rotary, as well as the local community as a whole in the process. Now, some of you might recognise me as I have done some talks with local groups over the last few months about the work that we do, and also at the Rotary Volunteer Expo last year. But I thought that I would start this evening just by talking a bit about our charity for anyone who isn't aware of what we do, just to give you a bit of background about why we're really keen to work with Rotary locally as well on our current initiative, which is the Plastic Clever Schools scheme. But I thought I'd give you a bit of background just to get started. So I'm Nottingham born and bred. I've always been brought up in nature and hiking in the Peak District with my family from an early age, which really gave me this desire and to protect the natural world and really just a care for it. And I actually got my first taste at campaigning for something I cared about when I was actually 8 years old, so 10 years ago now. And that was when my sister and I ran our It Stinks, Clean It Up campaign, which, strangely enough, this campaign was completely unrelated to our current topic of focus, which is plastic pollution, and was actually about tackling a big problem that we saw in our local area, which was dog poo. So what we'd do is we'd get up early each day before school and we'd take around our cans of spray paint and we would spray dog poo in bright orange spray paint on the streets. And we also put up posters explaining the dangers of it and left free poo bags tied to posts so that really people had no excuse not to clean up after their dog. So this campaign was actually pretty successful for us, aside from the fact that some posters got ripped down, but importantly, we saw a success. We noticed that there was a serious decrease in the amount of dog poo in our local area. And we even got featured in the local newspaper, which is what this photo is from, which was a bit of a bonus for us. But importantly, this really small project when I was young was just like this light switch for me that just offered me my first small step into youth campaigning and this idea that no matter how young you are, you can really have a voice that matters and you can make a difference. And this revolution laid the foundations for my future work in environmental action, which takes me to where I am today. Because fast forward 5 years later from this point to around 6 years ago, early 2016, was when my main activism began, because at the time, my sister and I were being homeschooled for a couple of years and we were studying the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And it was through these that we began learning about single-use plastics and the really devastating impact that disposable plastics are having on our environment. And we heard the facts that most of us will be familiar with now about the impacts of single-use plastic. And we saw all of these really horrific pictures of seabirds and sea mammals being killed by plastic in the oceans. And we just really found out that this wonder material is not so wonderful after all when its properties don't match its function and what it's used for. But the thing that really shocked us was that most other ordinary people like us similarly were unaware of the disastrous impact that their plastic habits were having on the planet, because this was a few years before the media explosion on plastic began like it does today. And to us, this just seemed really crazy. So we decided that just as we had 5 years ago or 6 years ago, we need to do our bit to tackle this really big problem. And so that's how we began our charity, Kids Against Plastic. Now, to begin with, we were 12 and 10 when we started, so we began by just litter picking, because litter picking was something we could do straight off the bat. It was a super easy first step to take. We just had to grab our litter picker and a bag and we were off. And it was also at this time that we set ourselves the goal of picking up 100,000 pieces of plastic litter, which is one for every sea mammal that's allegedly killed by plastic in the oceans every year. And this was just such a massive and shocking number for us. So, we thought it would be a good target for our litter picking. And it took us 5 years. But on Christmas Eve last year, we actually reached our total of 100,000. And so it was a great challenge for us over the years and a really great awareness raising activity to take us through our first years of campaigning. But what litter picking really did for us was it just opened our eyes to the consumption of plastic in particular, because we'd go to a place that we'd been litter picking just a week later and the litter would already be replaced. I'm sure it's something that you've experienced yourself if you've ever been on a litter pick. These photos just demonstrate it. This was, I think, in the middle of lockdown in 2020. We just went to a lay-by and picked up over 1,000 pieces of plastic. And then we went back literally a couple of days later and it had already been replaced. And there was even these markings saying that it was an environmental crime scene. So clearly, to us, picking up plastic is not the solution to the plastic pollution problem. It's at least we collectively reduce the amount that we use in the first place. And a contact of ours, he's a professor at Plymouth University, just has this amazing analogy for it. And he says that if plastic pollution were an overflowing bathtub, the solution wouldn't be that we'd go and we try and mop up all the water that continuously flows over the edges. The solution would just be to go and turn off the tap. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to cut our plastic consumption at the source and we need to turn off the plastic tap. And so that was when we decided that we'd take on the UK supermarkets. Now, to give you a bit of an idea of what we looked at the time, this is what we were like. So I think saying we were a bit young and naive would be a little bit of an understatement because, as I said, we were 12 and 10. But we basically said that we tackle supermarket single-use plastic and in particular plastic bottles, because they were and still are a real bugbear of ours because of how unnecessary they often are and how misleading they are with regards to all of their recyclability. I won't go into it too much tonight, but basically plastic bottles are often branded with big recyclable logos, which make you think that when you put them in the recycling bin, they'll often get made into new ones. But in the UK, that's not really the case. We have a pretty ridiculously ineffective recycling system, which means some things can be recycled in some places and not in others. But even when bottles do get into the recycling bin, they are often downcycled, which is where an item like a plastic bottle is made into one of lower quality plastic than it was before. So it's like turning a plastic bottle into a carpet or a fleece, which sounds amazing as a solution in theory, but really this actually brings along two big problems, which is firstly that these downcycled items emit pollutants called plastic microfibers, which wash out of our clothes every time we put them in the wash. And microfibers are a really prolific form of almost invisible plastic pollution, which is causing really extreme concern to marine biologists due to the interference that they can have in food chains. And then secondly, downcycling still means that loads more plastic needs to be produced just to replace the plastic that was used the day before. So we were really shocked by what we found. And so we set ourselves this goal of trying to get supermarkets to stop selling plastic bottled water. So we emailed and we set up a petition to the UK supermarkets to try and get our goal to happen. And as you might expect, this didn't go as planned. We were constantly referred to different departments, different members of customer service, or we never heard back in the first place. And it was then that we just realized that these massive chains were never just going to listen to the voices of just two passionate young girls with this concern about the overuse of single-use plastic, because supermarkets ultimately are driven by us, by consumers. So if we wanted to pressure the supermarkets into changing, we needed to show that there was a consumer demand for less single-use plastic. So that was when we began our Plastic Clever initiative, the initiative that I'm here to speak to you about today. Now, the idea of Plastic Clever is to encourage people to be more discerning users of single-use plastic and to stop buying their top 4 items of single-use plastic, such as plastic bags or plastic bottles or cups and lids and straws. Now, a lot of single-use plastic items we think are used mostly without a second thought, and yet can be surprisingly simple to avoid for most of us through the use of reusable alternatives, or just something really simple like saying no straw please in a drink. Now, the idea of Plastic Clever is that it's simple and achievable and is applicable to all sectors, be it schools, cafes, businesses, festivals, basically anywhere where there's an unnecessary usage of single-use plastic can become Plastic Clever, using the resources and the criteria that we've developed. Now, we initially began with cafes, and we went marching into local cafes with clipboards and criteria, and we convinced them in person to encourage customers to cut down on plastic and become Plastic Clever. And this was pretty successful, and one cafe even said that they saved money by becoming Plastic Clever because they actually saved money on buying a stock of plastic straws and other similar items. So that was encouraging for us, and we then moved on to our Plastic Clever Businesses initiative, which encouraged businesses to do the same with their employees. And then we began to work with festivals, organisations like Greenpeace, and even our local council here in Gedling to become more Plastic Clever and to reduce their plastic usage. But it's actually our Plastic Clever Schools initiative that's the most important part of the Plastic Clever scheme for us. Now, Plastic Clever Schools is, of course, specifically aimed at schools and students. And it's about encouraging and supporting students and teachers to learn about the plastic waste problem, audit their school plastic usage, and then to take simple and actionable steps to tackle it. And so the aim is that it can be really easily implemented by students as part of eco teams or in collaboration with teachers. And we have over 1,300 schools already signed up to the scheme around the UK. Now, as I said, our schools initiative has become a really big focus for us recently and for us going forwards in the near future, not only because it's an incredibly effective way to reach young people and to inspire them to take action against plastic pollution from a young age, but also due to a government target that's set to come into play this year. Because back in 2018, the then Education Secretary, Damien Hines, set UK schools the challenge of eliminating non-essential plastics by 2022. Now it's obviously 2022, and since the target was set, the government have actually done very little to actually meet their own target, despite the fact that it's the very year that the target elapses, and have basically left schools to their own devices, which has been very tricky with COVID and the other pressures that schools already have. So that's why we're running the Plastic Clever Schools Challenge, which is a revamped and improved version of the Plastic Clever Schools initiative that's helping primary schools around the UK to really smash the government's 2022 plastic target. The challenge is running until June this year, and it has 3 key stages to it that primary schools work through: inspire, investigate, and act. And as I said, these stages really take schools through the process of raising awareness of plastic pollution within the whole school, auditing the most used plastics within school, and then finally, the most important part, reducing their use of them. It's completely free, something that we're really passionate about, and it has curriculum-linked resources and schemes of work that are provided to support schools all the way from registration to achieving Plastic Clever Schools status. And also schools that will reach Plastic Clever status by the end of the challenge will get a prize bundle and an invitation to a special awards ceremony with awards for primary schools that have worked extra hard in their journey to become Plastic Clever. So they'll receive a bundle of rewards like a book bundle, an apple tree for the school grounds, a workshop, and many more prizes. But every school also that doesn't win an award and just complete the Plastic Clever process will also receive their own certificate, medal, book, and sticker as congratulations. Now, I was hoping to give you a bit more of a taste of what the Plastic Clever Schools programme looks like. I might be able to show you a short video that we have that's outlining the process.
Hey, welcome to Plastic Clever Schools. I'm Amy from Kids Against Plastic, And we've teamed up with our friends at Common Seas to help schools wave goodbye to single-use plastics. Want to join us? We're making it really easy. All you have to do is register on our website and you'll get access to everything you need to become a Plastic Clever school. The journey is split into 3 stages: inspire, investigate and act. And we'll be with you every step of the way with fun activities, fact sheets and workbooks for you and your school. Ready to go? Sign up today at plasticcleverschools.co.uk.
So hopefully that just gave you a bit more of a taste of what the resources and the whole initiative actually looks like in more visual terms than I've been talking about. But really importantly, this programme is just a child-led initiative and a really collaborative scheme that encourages participation of kids of all ages and abilities to really work together and develop their skills and just plan and execute the change that they really want to see within their school. And it's a chance for kids to just bridge the gap between the government's target and the solution that's actually needed. So the good news is that our website also has a map that has every primary school in the UK loaded onto it. So it's really easy to see the progress of schools in your local area and also for schools to log their evidence on their profile. And it also means that for schools to access their school profile, all the teacher needs to do is enter their school email to activate their account, and then they're ready to go and access the resources and everything that they need. So you can see that on the map, all of the schools in Nottinghamshire specifically. So the map allows you to select your local county, your local area, even more specifically, and it also breaks it down by district. So you can see that Gedling, where I'm from, has a really substantial amount of primary schools already signed up to the Plastic Clever Challenge, over a quarter already, which is really exciting to see. Now, just to point out the pins on the map, they're also colour coded. So the grey ones are schools that are yet to sign up, whereas the blue ones are us on stage 1, and then the stage 2 and stage 3 will be yellow and red respectively. So it's really easy to see what your local schools are up to as well and see what stage they're on. Now, just on Monday this week, my sister and I were actually down at Westminster, and we met with Robin Walker MP, who is the Minister for School Standards in England, to discuss the government's plastic target for schools and also the Plastic Clever Schools initiative. And he's actually agreed to revitalise the government target and remind UK schools that this year is the deadline and that the target is still in play. And so now it's just down to us to provide schools the solution that they need on a plate. So what needs to happen now is for schools to sign up and get started. And so this is where we're super excited to be collaborating with Martin and hopefully with all of your Rotary clubs in Nottinghamshire. We really think that this is a brilliant opportunity for the Rotary Club to get involved in tackling plastic pollution and also supporting local schools with their action, because online outreach can only do so much. And so we'd love for you to join us and support by visiting your local primary school with a special flyer, which unfortunately isn't ready for this meeting. Our partner organisation, Common Seas, have been designing it and have been slightly held up, so I apologise for that, but it will be coming very soon, and it will be a special flyer to present to your local school that explains the Plastic Clever Schools initiative, but also how Rotary is collaborating and supporting. And we hope it's a way that both of our organisations can benefit, because not only will we be helping schools in our area in their own action, but also providing a perfect inroad for Rotarians to rekindle relationships with local schools following the really difficult time that COVID has produced. And it's also worth noting that whilst the Nottinghamshire Challenge is running until the middle of this year, it's by no means ending there, because the plan is to create a legacy project after the challenge that can be easily implemented by county councils around the UK in 2022 and beyond. So this will hopefully provide a great chance for Rotary clubs around the UK to be inspired by the excellent work of the Nottinghamshire district and to get involved and help their local schools reduce plastic pollution and inspire the next generation to address environmental issues.